Welcome to Inside Style, and I am your host, George Worrell. You know, we are still celebrating Women's History Month, and we are experiencing and talking to some extraordinary women. Today, our guest is powerhouse of media. From dreamer at Howard University to a voice heard across the country, nationally syndicated show Morning Hustle. Angie Ange is in the house.
I'm in this thing, doing 10 things at once, but I'm in here.
Hey, we are so happy to see you.
Yes.
And stopping by to talk to us and tell us your journey, your dreams, and being the head of content at WHUT.
Absolutely.
Thank you for stopping by.
Me.
Yeah. So what's going on? So let's just start. Where did the dream begin? Like, I know in high school you thought about these. What was your first inkling to say, you know what? I like talking. I like communicating. I like connecting.
It was when I got kicked out. I was at Buck Lodge Middle School. I got kicked out of class pretty frequently. But I got kicked out of class by Miss Paul. She was my science teacher. And I couldn't stop talking. And she said, you know, I'm kicking you out because you won't stop talking. She said, you're very loquacious. And I said, what does that mean? She said, go look it up. And I looked up loquacious, and it meant talkative. And I said, oh, okay, that's a big word, but okay, I'm talkative. But that was one of the things I was always told, you talk too much, you talk too much, you talk too much. And so, you know, it was like, to discover that you could talk too much and that be a career. I was like, well, that'll be my career. So it was like, I always loved radio. I was a huge fan of all the radio talent here. I'm from here. Both my parents are from Northwest D.C. They raised me and my sister in Prince George's County. And so all these radio stations, I mean, we used to listen to them all day. In the morning, we would listen. And then it was wild because you get on the bus and your bus driver's playing the radio. So in the morning, it was Rush Parr. Or if I was in the car with my mom, it was Donnie Simpson. Yeah. Or my mom, you know, every morning when she was getting ready, she would listen to Tom Joyner. And he had a soap opera called It's Your World, and It's Your World.
I haven't thought about that in years.
Oh my gosh, I grew up listening. And it would crack me up. I would go like to the door, you know, while she's getting ready, because, you know, obviously it's mom and dad's room, so you can't go in. But I'd be at the door, and she'd have that CD player on blast, and I would listen to the episodes of It's Your World from Tom Joyner, and at the end he'd be like, well, and he would, you know, like all of the talent back then was just so animated. Radio was so animated. It was so lively, and it was such a part of your day, your full day. Radio was a part of your full day. So from morning to when I got out of school, I would be listening to the afternoon jocks. So I would listen to Easy Street. I would listen to Adimu in the afternoons, and you know, listen for the countdowns, the Fat Four at Fours, you know, all that type of stuff. And I knew I loved music, and I loved, you know, I love music. I'd sit there and I'd do my homework. I'd listen to the radio. I'd be watching MTV and BET. I'm doing all this at the same time. So it was like a love affair with radio and with the music business. I didn't know that these were businesses, though. I didn't know that you could make money, that you could make a living in it. I just was enjoying it. And then the night shows were my favorite, and that was Big Tigger and the Live Squad, Steph Lover, Pooch Man, P Stew. You know, it's time to get live like the squad. Always on the job, no doubt. Like I used to, you know, I'm listening to this.
Although I was from New Jersey, we got some of that, but this region was really focused on that, and being of color, that we saw, or you saw and heard these masterful people having an opportunity to do that. Yeah,
and I mean, when you're from here, you know, you kind of, it's interesting. You don't realize how much of a bubble you're in because it's Chocolate City. So, like, you know, I didn't realize it's people of color. It's just everybody black here. Everybody, everything, every business, everything black. So that's your world. You know, that's the world you're in. You don't realize how special that is until you kind of start to see other places don't have that. But I grew up in that, you know.
How did you decide on Howard?
Howard was, I did not want to go to Howard because my mom went to Howard, my aunts went to Howard, my grandma lived down the street from Howard on V Street, and my other grandma lived up the street from Howard. So Howard, I had been around it for so long, you know, it was like, I'm a Howard baby. I mean, my mom and them, they went to homecoming every year. I also, at the time, as a teenager, I started to think that this was unrealistic, that being in this kind of all black environment or predominantly black environment was going to be a handicap to me in the real world. I don't know why I thought that, but I did.
As a young person?
Yeah, so I thought I needed to go find some white folks. So I thought if I don't figure out how to get around white people, and so, like, I won't do well. So I was looking at Syracuse was my number one choice. I was going to go to Syracuse because it was in New York. And at the time, I didn't know the difference between upstate and the city. So first it was Syracuse, thinking I'm going to go be a VJ at VH1 or MTV, that type of thing. Syracuse had the most complicated process to get in. Mm-hmm. It was like 5 essays. Actually, they had a house in Georgetown that I went to do an interview. Like, I did everything to get in there because, you know, like, it was very competitive. Get into Syracuse. I think I'm going to Syracuse. I'm like, I'm out of here. And then they give you this invite for like a welcome thing for students that have been accepted. And, you know, I'm watching this slideshow and see these people in the snow, and I'm like, hey, excuse me, was that on a snow day? You know, that lady said, what is a snow day? I said, y'all don't have no snow days? Yeah. She was like, this is most of the year, and that snow was like up to here. And it was in that moment, after I did all that I was like, yeah, no, Syracuse won't be for me. Then I looked at Temple University in Philadelphia. I really liked Temple. Really thought I was going to go to Temple because I was like, okay, it's right in the middle between New York, but I'm also like DC. And Temple was supposed to be it. And then I go into their television station, their radio station. I'm talking to the students, and I asked, you know, when could I get involved? And they were like, oh, yeah, we got a lot of students. So probably around like at least after freshman year, sophomore, junior year. And I was like, I really know I want to do this now. But I said, okay, because I thought maybe that's just what it is. And then there was Maryland, got into Maryland, but same thing. It's kind of just a big school. It was down the street. I'm like, not sure about that. And then Howard. So Howard is there. It's like my safe school. I was like, let me just put it on there. But as I began to really do the research, I started looking at Howard. I'm really, not from the standpoint of, oh, that's my mom and them school. I started looking at Howard like, look at all the alum that come out of here. All these other schools, they had alum, but like their biggest alum would be like ninth class of 1970 something, you know? Yeah. Where like Howard, it was like famous alum. It was like constant alum.
And coming back.
Yeah, it was just constant. And I'm like, so then I'm starting to look at some of the people I'm watching on TV and I'm hearing on the radio, and they went to Howard. And I'm like, okay, so Howard consistently produces greatness. So that kind of perked me up. Then I actually went on campus to take a tour as a prospective student, which I had never done. I'd always gone up there, again, with my family, as opposed to going up there as a prospective student. And one of the students, he was I'll never forget this young man, don't remember his name. He had beautiful dreads. He was from Chicago. He had a really nice suit on. He was in the School of Business. And they ask him, what you like most about Howard? And he yells, you know, he stands up and he says proudly, I love the diversity. And I'm like, diversity? What is he talking about? Like, this is a black school. What diversity? And he went on to say, you know, how different all of us were in the cultures, and how that impacted how he moved in his life and his career, that we were so different. And I never thought about it like that, because the only black I knew was the black here. And then the last thing that made me say, okay, Howard is going to be for me, is I go down to the student station. I go to WHUR, which they're the only, you know, there's only like 2 universities that have like commercial radio stations on the campus. And one I think is like out in the Midwest somewhere, or out west. But Howard has a commercial radio station. Like, do you know how important? Everybody got a little student station.
Yeah, but this
is commercial radio station. So you can get that experience. And they said, you have access to us. And I said, well, when can I get started with the radio and TV stuff? They said, if you're ready to get started today, you can go. And that's when I was like, they were the only school that was like, if you're ready right now, there's an opportunity for you to do it. And so that made me say, all right, I'm going to go to Howard. And then I made the decision. I stayed on campus. And the rest was the rest. I utilized all of what Howard had. And it became my springboard into being able to do something I really wanted to do, which was I really, really wanted to be on the radio in my hometown. That was my dream, ultimately.
And going past that and just doing all the things that you did, let's fast forward to the morning hustle. How was that? What did it feel like to be on being a national voice? That people tuned in to Angie Ange.
Yeah, it was.
Which, by the way, is my mom's name. You know what I mean? Angie.
Shout out to the Anges.
Yeah.
Yes, we're special.
It was special. How was that to say, I'm on a national platform and people are tuning in to what I have to say? There's a level of responsibility there. How was that feeling for those of us who are listening out there that aspire, who are doing their thing? How was that for you? Because you're on the inside. You know what I mean? Like, how was that? How was that for you?
Well, the way it came about was difficult for me because I did not aspire to that, you know, especially as I got into my career. I really wanted to be my own person. I always wanted to be my own person. I didn't want to be a part of teams, and I didn't want to be under a man, because that's typically, that's what it is. If you're really good, it's like, oh, let's pair you with this guy so you can prop him up, it's always like a duo, you got to be, you couldn't just be like I saw with like the Wendy Williams or Angie Martinez. Like, I really admired those people. And so my trajectory, I wasn't worried about like a syndicated morning show. That wasn't appealing to me, because I like just being Angie Ange. I like, it must be Angie on the mic. I like having full creative control. I run my own boards. I produce my own show. I'm my own engineer. I'm my own everything.
Now that's hard.
It's
I'm going to tell you something, because that's hard. And
yes,
I found
out. And I'm a master at it.
But
I can edit, engineer, produce while running my own show. I do my own show, run my own board. I can bring a whole group of cheerleaders in all at the same time and take calls and get winners and put them in the system afterwards.
That's an art.
It's an art.
It's an art.
And I love the art.
And I didn't know anything about that, because I had only conducted interviews until I went to New York, and I somehow stumbled on XM Radio co-hosting Martha Stewart's radio show at the time while I was in New York. And when they brought me in, I'm like, okay, sit at the board, and then I'm like, the board? I'm just used to talking and the mic.
He said the board.
What the board is?
The board can be very intimidating.
Yes,
too.
because
you
have to be able to turn it. You like you said, you're in control.
Yeah, you got to be
go to commercial, bringing the person in.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, but I loved it. That's the art that I love. Syndication is still an art, but it's a different type of art. So that was never really like. Sure, when I was young, I thought, I'm going to be like Russ Parr. But like when I had my career prior to that, for the 13, 14 years prior to, it was me. So, being able to do night show, afternoon drive. And then when I did get to my, I had my own morning show for a bit. And then they told me they needed a syndicated show because Tom Joyner had retired. They were moving Ricky Smiley over to Tom Joyner stations, and they had to find a show for their 18 to 34 stations. And they just didn't have really, I think, a solid plan together, so they just started throwing stuff. So I got caught up. I feel like I got more caught up in it versus, you're giving me an opportunity of a lifetime. None of it, it never felt like that for me. So there was a little bit of, I didn't go into it like with excitement, but I did treat it as a badge of honor, because when you look at syndicated shows, there aren't a lot of people from here that are on syndicated shows. And so I took that as an honor. That was what ultimately made me say, let me go do this, because I just wanted us as a city, this area, to be represented in that capacity. Because when you listen to, a lot of people don't realize, when you're listening to a syndicated show, then people from everywhere, but where you from? So,
right.
So, to be able to bring a DMV vibe to in a national capacity was an honor for me. And so, but it wasn't like, I had made this, it was just like, to me, it was like, okay, this is as high as you get and this is my exit. So at that point, I was there thinking to myself, like, we're going to do this for a couple years, get that badge, do that stamp, and then I'm out. Because I was ready to go at that point. So I didn't go in there like excited, but I learned a lot in terms of, here's a different area of radio, because I love mastering the art of it. So I got to see how a syndicated show runs, which is very different from a local show, because when it's local, everything is kind of in the moment and live. When it's syndicated, most of it is like pre-recorded and quick. It's really like cookie cutter, cut and paste, quick, right? Because they have to be able to take that and make sure that it can run properly in all these different markets. So to me, it becomes less endeared to local, because they can't be but so local. And they'll do little things like, okay, well, let's send a break to your local station, or we'll put Steve Harvey's voice on, and he'll say, hey, so-and-so, what's going on? To make it feel like he's here. But, whole time he's in Atlanta, so he doesn't know that, like, them kids just took over the Navy Yard and that's what everybody's talking about. And, he can't really speak to that, and that may not matter to the other 80 markets he has. So, it's kind of like syndication is cool from, like, it's like, okay, you got the title, but in terms of how I felt as far as like its ability to really land locally, as someone who loves people and loves the connection with the people, you don't feel much of a connection. You're just kind of going through you go through the elements of the show. We know we have this break. All we're doing is saying, we got this break, we're going to do this at this break, this at this break, this at this break.
So it sounds like you took the initiative to master your craft.
Yeah, and that's what I love. Beyond being syndicated, I mean, again, it's to be able to say you're a nationally syndicated radio talent. That's important, and again, not enough people, I feel like, from here reach that level or have been able to do that. So there is, I do respect it, I honored it, and I felt proud to represent this area on the Morning Hustle, because I was leading the Morning Hustle. I had put that, I all but put it together for the most part, and had to lead the team. But if you're asking me, like, that is not the height, that was my, I'm ready to be up out of here. So that's not for me
that pinnacle?
No, not at all. My pinnacle would have been when I got to do afternoon drive, when I moved from night show to afternoons, because I had done the nights for 7 years. And so, I started off, I was fresh out of college. I was young. And it's wild because some of them kids, they're damn near my age right now, but I didn't realize how close we were in age, because at that point I started doing that night show, I was like 22, 23. So when I'm going to their prom, they're 18. We weren't that far apart. But then I grew up. And as I grew up, I wanted to grow as a talent. So I didn't want to keep going to the proms. Like some of them people be like 50 years old doing the night show and still going to the proms and the football game. I wanted to grow as a talent.
But you knew that.
Yeah, I knew that. And I made it known.
Was that instinct?
Yes, and I made it known to the management, like, I want to grow. I won't be here. I don't plan to be in my 30s. And that, and that's good if you're in your 30s. Some people don't start at that level till they're in their 30s, but I was just like,
or 40s.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't want to be there, And so when I got the opportunity to go to transition from doing the night show after 7 years to doing afternoon drive, that for me was a pinnacle, because I was very proud of that. Radio 1 at that point, 93.9, they gave me a chance to grow with my audience, and that meant the world to me, because again, if you've been there for 7 years, that 10-year-old is 17. The 17-year-old is, they're now adults. They in the club with me drinking. So if I keep doing this kid stuff, then they're going to outgrow me over time, and I wanted to grow with them. I thought that was most important. So that, for me, was a pinnacle, and I had a ball in the afternoon.
What you're saying is something that's innate.
Yeah.
Most people wouldn't know that. So there had to be something within you, the way you were raised, what you were around, and your goals and what you were thinking about ahead, right?
I also didn't think it was possible. Here's the other part about the afternoons that makes it such a pinnacle too. They're not, how many women you know do afternoon drive show? Afternoon drive is prime time. Morning and afternoons is prime time, and it's always men that lead that. It's always men in those positions. That's what I said, like for me, I had to go to New York to really see women running that type of thing. And that was Angie Martinez, and that was Wendy Williams. But in D.C., it was always men. It was a D move. It was easy. And all love to that. But like I didn't have that example here. So that was the other reason that it was such a great pinnacle, was because that didn't really, women by themselves in the afternoon, a woman-led morning show, that's not here. I've seen it in other places, but not here. And so I've been able to do that. That's what is those types of things excited me, because I just didn't see it here, being from here. And so I felt like to be able to be an example or create or say it was done, then I know that there's another young lady that's listening thinking like, okay, I can do it. Or she's going to have an easier path than I did for people to see her, an executive to see her without a man having to lead her.
Was the path easy?
No, it's never. It's radio. It's media. Media, there's nothing easy that I know. I've never seen anything easy in media in general, but certainly not for a black woman. But it's not easy, period. Black men, men, women, whoever. Media is it's Hunger Games, right? Like it's. But like I think in anything
that we do, I think wherever we go and wherever we do, it's going to be harder. But I want our audience to know that all the fabulous things that you're talking about in an incentive, that there are some pitfalls, there are some struggles
all the time,
and
but that's a part of it. Like there are going to be, when you, especially as a woman, I think some of the biggest things is like just again how people, and that's men and women. Like I always say, misogyny to me is not just, it doesn't just come from men. I'd argue some of my women leaders were more misogynistic in terms of how they saw women in radio. The misogyny is not centered just around how a man treats a woman. It's how society treats women. And that's the what I always try to break down, is because you get it from men and women. Sometimes men have been my greatest ally, and sometimes they have been the worst. It just depends. It's the thought process. It's the idea that if you are a woman doing this is how you should do it. And I didn't do it anything like that. I wasn't going to be a drama queen. I wasn't going to be the sex kitten. I wasn't going to be I wasn't going to be any of those things. I was going to be like a Russ Parr. I saw myself like Russ Parr. He could talk anything. He can laugh 1 minute. He could talk about anything, everything. Where a lot of times with women, it's very much, here's your role in the woman, as a woman on a show, and you are to kind of either compliment, exalt, or lift up, or highlight, get the man up, like you're his,
ladder.
Yeah, you're his like, which he climbs up. So you're kind of like, it's like, but why? For me, it was like, but why? I like what he's doing. He get to do whatever he wants. But as a woman, I felt that punishment was harsher. I felt that critique was harsher. I felt that, or more harsh. I felt, again, I felt that there was always like this idea in a lot of executives' heads about what role you should play. But I also felt that I could earn respect. And I felt that just because that's how they thought and how they felt.
It had nothing to do with
you. They don't got nothing to do with me. I was kind of like, I was like, I don't know. I just think, and blame being green and being young. Thank God that I came into the business so young and so green, because, for all, like when I can look back and look at all the stuff they was probably throwing at me, or all the things people were saying, but I ain't hear none of that. Because all I knew was like, I'm trying to win, I'm trying to win, I'm trying to grow. I love people, I'm connecting. Like, I didn't get caught up in none of that, but it's funny because when I think in retrospect, all of that was probably
around you. like swarming like sharks. Right.
But I'm just like, I want to win. I want to win. And I just, and I thank God for the angels I had around. I had so many amazing other talent and managers and leaders who really, they saw me and they helped me, because like you cannot navigate this by yourself.
Yeah.
And if it weren't for people like DJ Flex, if it weren't for people, Flex and Rain, Adimu, even Rush Parr, Donnie Simpson, all of these people that I grew up exalting and listening to, they became my peers, they became my friends, they became more than just like colleagues or people that we worked together. They became my family, genuinely my family, and they're all people I can call at any time. And they love me and I love them.
Wow.
And that says a lot too, because you got to earn that from the OGs. They don't just, they don't get that to anybody.
No,
so I take pride in that as well.
Let's talk briefly about being at the helm of WHUT TV and director of content. How was that for you, and how was that
I'm in year 4. This is year 4. I've been the head of programming and content at HUT. And one, it was a blessing to be able to come back to my campus, because when I left Howard, I told myself, and I got into my career, I was like, I want to come back and give back to students so that they can know what this business really is. I didn't feel like I had anybody that really prepared me for the politics of the business, right? Like, I understood I wanted to make money and live off of it, but I didn't understand how the politics of radio worked. So, I wanted to make sure that at some point I could come back and help young people navigate not just the craft of what you do, but like the professionalism of it. The key, which is a major key to whether you stay in it or not, is your ability to remain professional. Anyway, I really wanted to at some point come back, and this was an opportunity for me to come back and do that. But WHUT is a PBS station, so it's not a student station. It's literally a PBS station. So it put me in a new challenge, a new space. I've always been a leader, but when you're a talent, you don't really have much of a say. In a sense, you can have input, but there are leaders over you that are kind of determining this is the direction of the shows, or this is the direction of the station. Essentially, I could always kind of do what I wanted to do with my show, but leaders are driving, how the stations connect with their communities and with other companies and all this stuff. And so I really wanted to be in leadership. I was ready to, I'd done radio for at that point like 15, almost 20 years. I wanted to be in a position to like make way for the next group of creators. And how do we make sure that creators are empowered to be the best versions of themselves and have the biggest impact they can have? And I felt that leadership, to me, didn't really do that. And so I was like, well, let me do it, right? Because it's easy to say what someone should do if you've never done it. And then I did it, and I was like, oh, damn, no wonder. Okay. I was like, oh, man, okay, I understand. I tell some of my managers, we'll go out to lunch, some of my old past managers, and I'll just be like, they're like, see, do you understand now? I'm like, yeah, sort of, but I still think you could have did better. You still ain't handle it right. But leadership was really important to me as a talent to move into that space, because I believe talent has a lot of great, not just ideas, but we understand things differently from management. But we also need to understand management. We need to understand how the corporations work so that we can kind of help create change. Again, I could always give an opinion, but now I don't give an opinion. I'm setting the agenda. And that's important to me. So I've been able to reset and reimagine WHUT as the only HBCU with a PBS license. We're based in D.C. We have such a great opportunity to create content that's centered around the Black experience in so many ways. And like your show, I don't have to ask anybody. When you brought Neighborhood Favorites to WHUT, I didn't have to go ask somebody or say, hey, as a talent, I would have had to say, hey, this is my friend George. He has a great show. Could you consider it? No, you brought it to me. I'm the one that's going to decide if it's on or not.
That phone call meant so much to me.
And I got an email. I got an email the other day. A young lady named Liv. She was asking me for something, but she said, "By the way, I really enjoyed your program, Neighborhood Favorites. My friends and I visited Red's Trading a few weeks ago and loved it. Thank you for putting together a show with such an interesting host."
Wow.
And I said, his name is George Worrell. I said, I'm going to let him know. I told her I was going to pass that along, but I've been holding on to that because that's why you need someone in a position of power who takes a chance on a show like yours, because you're an independent producer, right? We're able to distribute your show, but to be able to see when it connects, because if I don't onboard a show I don't think can connect with our community, our target demographic. When it does, though, that's like, I know you feel good, but it makes me feel good because I'm like, that's why the show is on.
It's something about, that you get,
Like, I'm like, I know how to pick them. It's like.
I'm glad you did. Listen, you got to come back for part B.
Okay, part B.
Please,
next time.
please. Yes. How can our viewers and listeners reach out to you on social media?
Yeah, you can follow me and kind of see. I'm trying to do a better job of posting, but it's at Go Angie, all one word, GoAngie on Instagram primarily. But really, it's just at WHUT TV because that's kind of everything we run is through there. If you want to learn more about Howard University Television and the programming or want to be involved. And so my head is down right now in terms of really working on how do we create more opportunities for our independent creators in the city, but also in a way that will allow them to be sustainable. To me right now, my vision is we need to empower production companies because the production companies can hire other people, and that's to me what we need, right? Does WHUT need to have all this staff, or do we need to put that budget into freelancers and say, okay, here's your pot, here's what we need you to deliver, and then you and your team go get that. That's, to me, that's where things are going. We look at the economy. There's a lot of gig economy. Everybody's talking about that. But is that sustainable? For a lot of people, it's not. Mm-hmm. So we've got to find more ways in the creative economy, especially here in D.C. I think places like HUT and even OCTFME, we have the ability, because we do carry some budget, to be able to then give that budget or disperse it to companies that have the ability to bring on multiple people. Because for us to onboard all them people probably don't make a lot of sense. Right. But for y'all to onboard those people, you can now scale your business. Yeah. Yes, and have a multitude of projects that you can build. So that's my perfect world. We are very much so having to pivot in a lot of ways because of the funding. We lost a lot of funding because PBS was defunded, CPB was defunded. So now it's on the people. Sure. We really need the power of the people to say, hey, I want WHUT to not just continue, but to thrive. We got a good team, and so I'm just out here telling people, like, we got a good team, we got vision. We look at our programming, look at the people we got on our team, look at folks like you that get to come. We're a residence for independent creators who are making quality work that fits our agendas and our goals in terms of what we want to get to the public, right? So I'm just here as a voice now, a mouthpiece to say, if we can make up the funding through the people, we could really take WHUT to a different level, I believe.
And I see that happening. Angie, thank you for sharing your story and your insight and perspective with us today. Thank you for listening to Inside Style. And also, as Angie noted, check out Neighborhood Favorites, which is on WHUT.
That's right.
And
I run that thing like it's commercial.
Yeah.
I run that thing. I run it like it's a hit record. Yeah. So just you find your listings, you'll see Neighborhood Favorites on there somewhere.
And remember, real style starts with being comfortable in your own skin. I'm George Worrell, and I'll see you next time.